Blog Talk Radio.
Over? Did you say over? Nothing is over until we decide it is!
Looks like we're experiencing technical difficulty, but don't worry, folks. We're still on the air.
And you bet your ass we are. It's another week of This Week on That Nerd Show, and I'm Marcus Blake, one of your hosts, and with me as always is Brendan.
Who is right now getting suffocated by his dog who just farted on him. Oy vey. Oh. The hell
There's a White House presidential joke in there somewhere. We just haven't figured it out yet. We will have some other guests join us a little bit later, but for right now, you get me and Brendan starting off with a little bit of nerd news. We'd like to discuss what's going on over the past week. Really, kind of over the past 2 weeks, we had a scheduling conflict last week and weren't able to do our podcast, but we are back and there's a lot going on. So we are going to start with Star Wars news because with it being the 40th anniversary of Star Wars this year, pretty much everything starts with Star Wars. And no, we're not going to jump into rumors or anything like that. And in regards to trying to figure out spoilers, I think Josh Gad is doing a pretty good job on Instagram trying to get those spoilers out of Daisy Ridley. His videos have been absolutely hysterical. But it was actually quite humorous to see Judi Dench use the term midichlorians. Like, I don't know what this is. I'm just reading off a cue card. But anyway. So, couple of important items that were discussed this past week. First of all, actor Jimmy V will be replacing Kenny Baker in R2-D2. It hadn't really officially been announced who was going to be taking over that role, so to speak, since Kenny Baker died a couple of years ago. But yes, Jimmy V will be taking over. So there you go. It's kind of sad when you have when you start having to replace all the original people, in costumes and everything.
Yeah.
But that's how old Star Wars is.
Or
also,
just CGIing them back to life. Hello, Peter Cushing.
Right. Well, I'm glad they found a good replacement for Chewbacca. So, I mean, that's that way we can always have Chewbacca. So, anyway, also, it was actually discovered within the translations into Spanish and other languages that the Last Jedi title is actually plural. So, I don't know. I'm kind of surprised, and I feel kind of bad that we didn't really pick up on that, too, when it first got announced. But, it looks like it's actually plural, so there you go.
Maybe
have fun with that.
Maybe, and who knows, maybe it's just more than the obvious Luke and,
right.
Rey, so that would be, nice to see that there's a few of them.
Well, and while we're doing this new trilogy and, Rebels is still going strong and everything, I mean, I eventually want to know what happens with Ezra and Kanan. Or Ahsoka and all that. I mean, what are their stories, within this, last 30 years? But also, I believe it's next week, or maybe, no, I think it's actually tomorrow that the third book in the Aftermath trilogy by Chuck Weddick will be out. So there'll be a lot more going on in that series. So anyway, that's what's going on in Star Wars news. This just not really bode well for Warner Brothers yet again in doing DC Comics, but apparently after Ben Affleck had stepped down from being director of the Batman movie, they had picked Matt Reeves, who has been doing the Planet of the Apes movies, and apparently that's not happening now. So I guess negotiations broke down and he left, and so they're yet again without a director and don't know what's going on with that. Just like,
oh, goody.
Yeah. I mean, is there any good news that you can give us? I mean, on the one hand, we want more stuff to talk about at our panel at AllCon next month, how to fix DC Comics. But at the same time, we also want you to get your act together because we want good movies.
Want there to be some inkling of hope. You got to give us a bone that you might possibly have a clue about what you're doing. Just, work with us here.
I mean, obviously Marvel has pretty much surpassed you, but, you're not winning the war on that one. But take a page out of their book. See how they did it at this point, so you can make money. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, okay. Some other casting news for all of you Disney fans out there. James Earl Jones will be returning to voice Mufasa in the actual live-action Lion King movie. So there you go. But by the way, I want to point out that that's like that should be a law. That's a nerd law right there. If the voice actor is still alive, you always get the voice actor. Yeah, hence Darth Vader.
And willing.
Right, exactly. With all the technology to be able to do all your voice work in the comfort of your own home, in your PJs. So,
yeah.
But I was actually excited to...
It's a great gig if you can get it.
Right. I was very excited to hear that that he was coming back to do the voice. But we won't have the kid from Tool Time, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, right? Wasn't that the kid's name that did Simba, or the younger Simba? Anyway.
It may have been, yeah. Didn't he commit suicide?
I don't know.
Anyway.
That goes in the category of we don't care, but no, they won't be getting like other original people back. Donald Glover will actually be voicing Simba for the movie. So there you go.
So Lando Calrissian is now Simba.
Right.
There's something kind of awesome about that.
I know. Jon Favreau, your nerd credibility is still intact.
Welcome to the cool side of the jungle.
Yeah. Speaking of other casting news for Disney movies, the Mary Poppins Returns movie that they have decided to do, and it's going to be released on Christmas in 2018, they have Angela Lansbury coming in to do a role. So I like that. I mean, and for those...
Who's playing Mary Poppins?
Emily Blunt.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's face it. It doesn't really matter who's playing Mary Poppins at this point because you're never going to be able to replace Julie Andrews. I mean, it's just never going to be as good. So you hope that it's good enough and entertaining enough to watch the movie more than once or be willing to pay money to go see it. But I like the idea that, other Disney alum from, old-fashioned Disney movies, is coming back. And for those millennials out there that are not aware of this, yes, what is it, Bedrooms and Bed Knobs? Is that what it is? Bed Knob. It's one of those other...
Is Angela Lansbury? Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was also the voice of Mrs. Cup or Mrs. Pot in Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast. Yeah. So, definitely heading in the right direction, Disney. Might as well if you're going to take over the world and stuff.
They pretty much are. Let's face it.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm still going back to one of those original seasons of Family Guy with Michael Eisner chasing Stewie around Disneyland, going Kalima. Anyway.
That might, yeah. So, I forgot to mention this in our Star Wars news because it was way down on my list, and it must be because this is kind of a strange item. But apparently there is a follow-up book after Rogue One. Now, yes, I know what everybody's thinking. Well, isn't the follow-up really just Episode 4? Yes, it is. However, There is a book called Inferno Squad, which will be written by Christy Golden and will be released this summer. And it follows an elite Imperial squad and their mission following the rebellion's successful theft of the Death Star plans. Here's the synopsis of it. The rebellion may have heroes like Jyn Erso and Luke Skywalker, but the Empire has Inferno Squad. After the humiliating theft of the Death Star plans and the resulting destruction of the battle station, the Empire is on the defensive. In response to this stunning defeat, the Imperial Navy has authorized the formation of an elite team of soldiers known as Inferno Squad. The mission: infiltrate and eliminate the remnants of Saw Gerrera's partisans. Following the death of their leader, the partisans have carried on the extremist legacy, determined to thwart the Empire, no matter at what cost. Now, Inferno Squad must prove their status as the best of the best and take down the partisans from within. But as the danger intensifies and the threat of discovery grows, how far will Inferno Squad go to ensure the safety of the Empire? I'll be honest with you, I'm not really excited about this at all and could care less. So, I mean, I don't... and yeah. Inferno Squad, I kind of want to know who came up
They're
with
on
that
fire.
name, don't you?
I don't even want to know. Anyway.
Yeah. Actually, you know what Inferno Squad sounds like? It just sounds like, extended content for Battlefront. You don't really care what the name is as long as you get to kill, the Empire. So,
yeah,
anyway,
actually, that would be okay if it was, if it was like, hey, I get to use like a flamethrower in Battlefront. All right, that's kind of cool.
Right.
But
right.
but like as a book goes, there's really not much of a story there. It's like, okay, wait, what do you do? I'm an Inferno Squad. Well, what do you do? we burn rebels. Oh, well, that's it. Yeah, pretty much that's it. We just get up, we death all day long. Have some lunch. Chill out with some beer and death, and then dinner. Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Well, why do you have a 400-page book? Not a fucking clue.
Because Disney has to make some other money.
Yeah, because Disney invested $4 billion, and they're going to make a profit, not just make it back.
Right. The toys aren't enough. Well, I think we could chalk it up to a book we won't read. So there you go. All right. It looks like, we've mentioned before that they will be making a Mission Impossible 6. And there was some more discussion about it this week and returning characters.
The discussion
besides
kind
Tom
of went
Cruise.
like this. Really? They're doing a mission. Why? Sorry.
Yeah.
It's this. I'm more interested in another Rocky at this point than I am Mission Impossible. Sorry.
Yeah, give me Creed 2. We got to see young Creed. We got to see young Creed, win the championship. That's why.
Yeah.
But yeah,
maybe Ivan Drago's son can come over from Russia.
That would actually be like a great action movie joke for Mission Impossible. Who's the enemy? It's Ivan Drago.
Oh God! All right.
Wow. Yeah. So I get basically Tom Cruise is returning and Rebecca Ferguson is returning, which she was in the Rogue Nation one. The good-looking girl that was another agent and stuff. So, and I'm sure he'll have part of his other team there. Ving Rhames always returns. Actually, Ving Rhames has pretty much been the one that's returned in all of them, I believe. Hasn't he? Yeah.
So yeah, I haven't watched the last two, so. But I thought I saw him in the trailer.
Right. I'm gonna bring up a call real quick. You're on That Nerd Show. Did you have a comment about the news?
I was actually calling about the president. I thought that's what y'all posted about.
Oh, we are. We're just going through our news segment right now. But before we get there,
It's Daniel.
Who's your favorite fictional president?
Always Harrison Ford. Get off my plane. That's all. I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in and enjoy the show. Y'all have fun.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling in, man. Appreciate you.
He's actually kind of my favorite, too. I mean, and by the way...
no, he's not. I know your favorite.
You think you do.
We'll get to that later.
Right, we'll get to that later. But Air Force One, real quick, may not have been like the greatest of movies or anything, but it's one of those fun just action movies that you can watch over and over and you never really get tired of it. And it has a great cast.
Yeah.
So,
if you ever wanted to see Gary Oldman with a broken neck slowly floating down to his death, it's interesting.
Right. Okay. Getting back to the news. And yes, we do want to remind everybody out there that's listening to us, about the second half of our show from 9 to 10, we will be discussing our favorite fictional presidents. And we do want to hear from you. If you've got some 2 cents to throw in there and, especially if there's somebody that we do forget as we get, closer to the end. We're going to try to remember everybody, but yeah, we do want to hear from you. And our call-in number is 646-564-9558. So, but anyway, back to news. What's going on? Okay. Sam Raimi. Raimi is doing a Bermuda Triangle movie, which I think is kind of interesting because it's Sam Raimi, and we haven't really done anything with the Bermuda Triangle in a while. But yeah.
I wonder if people even, like, after the advent of GPS, like, millennials even know what the Bermuda Triangle is. Like, seriously, because there hasn't anything going missing there in a long friggin' time. So, I'm just wondering if the only thing that goes missing in this movie is the plot on the millennials.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. But, hey, it's Sam Raimi, so I'll give it a shot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was a miniseries on the Sci-Fi Channel called The Triangle. It came out in 2005. Had Eric Stoltz in it, which for a sci-fi movie wasn't really bad. But yeah, what's interesting about all of this is there's actually 3 different Bermuda Triangle projects in the works, and Skydance is developing one of them. And the other 2 are being set up by Universal Pictures and Warner Brothers. So 3 separate studios are doing something about the Bermuda Triangle.
There would have to be 3 of them, wouldn't there?
Yeah, I know. We're really not making that up. That is actually what's going on. But
the house shall count to 3. Thou shalt not proceed unto 4. 5 is right out.
If you can't use Monty Python jokes on that nerd show, then we're not really nerds.
And it was so well placed there. Anyway.
Yeah. But anyway,
right.
Sam Raimi's doing one of them. There's no word on the other ones, but basically it revolves around the area of North Atlantic Ocean between Florida, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda, where numerous aircrafts and ships have mysteriously vanished. The water is sometimes referred to as the Devil's Triangle, and it's been a hot spot for conspiracy theorists, who attribute strange phenomena and stuff. By the way, one of the best X-Files episodes, too, revolved around the Bermuda Triangle in the 6th season, where Mulder ends up on the Queen Anne ship that was, destroyed. But it's like this reverse world. He meets, like, secret agent Dana Scully protecting a German scientist, and the smoking man's like a German officer, and was one of those fun outside of the alien mythology episodes.
Yeah, because
anyway,
the History Channel is going to do a Bermuda Triangle special too. It's just going to be aliens. Whatever happened to History Channel? Good God. Anyway.
Well,
sorry about that.
I think they have a series now about SEAL Team 6. I think I saw some snippet about
Yeah.
that. Anyway, this is, I swear to God, this is not this week's Sign of the Apocalypse. This is an actual thing happening. There will be a sixth Tremor movie. And, of course, Michael Gross, who's been in every one of them because he has nothing else going on in his career. So we'll also have Jamie Kennedy, who was in the fifth one. Now, two things about this. First, I know most people didn't realize that there has actually been 5 Tremor movies. Yeah. The first 2 went to theaters, and then the rest
I'm
of them
more
have
shocked
been
that Jamie
strict.
Kennedy's still acting.
Oh, right. Well, that's it. Hey, look, it was either Tremor 6 or another, Sharknado or a Sharknado movie. So, I guess he chose Tremor 6 so he could get top billing.
I guess.
But anyway, yeah. So there you go.
Tough climb over Ian Ziering.
But anyway, Tremor 6 did start production this week in South Africa. That's another thing that kills me is wait a minute, this movie has a big enough budget to send everybody to South Africa? Don't we have a state called Arizona or New Mexico? So I really find this industry with that this movie has that big of a budget that it can send people to another country when you have independent filmmakers that are trying to get their films off, especially here in Texas where we're located at, and they can't find financing. So maybe we should have some priorities, because I actually want to meet someone that has seen Tremors 3, 4, and 5 sober and not high. Let me put those 2 stipulations in there. If you have, please call us and let us know. We will give you a prize. But yeah, I did want to throw that in there, mainly just to laugh, before we do get to this week's Side of the Apocalypse. All right, so it has been announced that Force Friday 2, we didn't really do one last year because it was, a Star Wars story, but with Episode 8 coming out this year, there will be a big release for new toys, and it will be happening midnight September 1st. So there you go. You get a new look at everything, and can hit Disney, Toys R Us, Target, all the good stores at midnight. And actually, I will say this. When they did this 2 years ago, the Disney store, they didn't actually open at midnight. They waited till 5 a.m., mostly to put together a really nice presentation for the fans that were, there at the mall and stuff. So the Disney stores really do go all out for something like this. But there you go. Force Friday, September 1st. All right. And for all you American Horror Story fans, Season 6 will be set in 2016, and it will revolve around the election. And again, no, this is not American Horror. This is not this week's Side of the Apocalypse. This is actually a real thing. And they will feature a character much like Trump who is running for president. So feel free to comment on the irony there. But there you go.
Yeah, does it? I don't think I need to. I think it speaks for itself.
Yeah, I know. I'm not personally a huge fan of American Horror Story. I do recognize how good it is, and it's gotten some top-notch talent with Jessica Lange and Kathy Bates. Yeah. So there you go. And the Raid, which let me put this.
Now you've caught my interest.
The Raid is being remade, which, came out in 2011.
I thought we were going to get Raid 3. Why are we making...
No.
Yeah,
it's... No. I don't know. We're not getting the third one. We're getting a reimagining of the Raid Redemption. And it will star Frank Grillo and will be directed by Joe Carnahan, who did
so
the
we're not
A-Team movie.
not only getting the Raid, but we're getting a cheap. So we're not just not getting the Raid; we're getting a cheap American ripoff of the Raid.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's horrible.
So pick your poison. Do you want to see this or Tremor 6?
At this point, at least Tremor 6 is a somewhat original story.
Yeah, right.
More original than that.
And I like the director. I mean, I thought he did a great job with the A-Team movie.
Right.
But
which should have gotten a sequel and didn't.
Oh my God. It's not like Quentin Rampage is doing anything. I mean, he's pretty much retired now. So anyway, and that's pretty much. And there is actually going to be a live-action Mulan movie. So they've announced the director, Nikki Caro, will be the director of the live-action Mulan movie. And here's the interesting thing about that. You can still, and I always mispronounce her name incorrectly, but Ming, who actually voiced the princess. Yes. The fact is, even though she's in her 50s, still is gorgeous, and you could still put her in that movie as a princess. So.
Yeah, she's pretty. We saw her in person over New Year's, and wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a very stunning lady.
Oh yeah. All right, and for you Outlander fans out there, and we haven't covered Outlander really all that much because it's too much romance for our taste. But the Celtic, Scottish history and everything, it's been great. But for you fans out there, season 3 will be coming in September. I know there hadn't been a date announced yet, but it will be here in September. So you can find out, how Claire is going to get back to the 18th century. And yes, that was kind of a spoiler if you hadn't actually kept up with the series.
Future?
Yeah. So anyway. And before we segue completely into gaming news, there was an interesting article this week. Remember that BioShock movie that had been in development for a while? Or did anybody actually realize that there was a BioShock movie in development?
I heard something briefly like, hey, we're doing a... And I was just like, well, yeah, great, but I've heard about 86 different video game properties are in development, so when there's a director, a cast, and a trailer, call me.
Right. Well, anyway, Gore Verbinski, who was slated to do this, and I apologize to our audience out there. My computer is actually running a little bit. Skynet's affecting the computer, but he basically, in an interview this week, kind of told everybody what happened, to the development, and this is what he said. It's no short answer to the question of why it didn't happen, but we were 8 weeks prior to shooting when the plug was pulled. It's an R-rated movie. I want to keep it R-rated. I felt like that would be appropriate, and it's an expensive movie. It's a massive world we're creating. It's not a world we can, simply go to locations to shoot. A Cure for Wellness, we were able to really utilize a variety of locations to create the world. BioShock, it wouldn't work like that. We'd be building an entire underworld universe. So I think the combination of the price tag and the rating, Universal, they didn't really feel comfortable ultimately for the project. At the time, also, there was some R-rated expensive, there were other R-rated, movies that were not working. And so things have changed, and maybe there will still be another chance, but it's difficult when you're 8 weeks away from shooting a movie you really can't see in your head, and you've almost filmed, and you've almost filmed the entire thing. So emotionally, you're right. And he just went on to talk about abandoning the project. But it looks like it really just came down to about how they were going to create the worlds, and it was just too expensive. And it's the same thing, it's a very common tale in Hollywood where projects, don't get off the ground because they are too expensive or studios take a loss. Give you a great example. If nerds out there have not seen The Death of Superman Lives, the Tim Burton movie that was supposed to happen with Nicolas Cage in 1998, that's what happened to it. It was too expensive to make, and they already had 2 other movies that they were working on. They chose The Wild Wild West instead of Superman Lives, and then it turned out to be a flop with good reason because it was a horrible movie. But really what it just, comes down to is, the money to be able to put into something like this. So there you have it. I guess unless, somebody really comes in and finances, puts enough money, to do this movie, then it just isn't going to happen for a BioShock movie. So, and personally, I don't know how I really feel. I mean, I love the games, but I mean, to do a movie when there really hasn't been any great, movie based off of a game, is it really even worth trying to do that, or should fans just continue to enjoy the games because they definitely have a lot of replay value? So, I don't know. Would you?
I'd just rather play the games at this point because the movies just haven't lived up to the game. So why tie yourself to 2.5 hours when you have 30 to 100 hours?
Well, there hasn't been a game movie come out that we haven't left the theater saying I wouldn't pay money of a full price movie ticket to see this movie. There have been some that are entertaining. There have been some that have been well cast. Both Hitman movies were very entertaining, but I don't see them as a go to the movie type. Go to the movies to see them. The Assassin's Creed movie, while stylish and entertaining, again wasn't really all that great, despite the cast. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the kind of money that you're going to spend on a movie, you could probably make quite a few really great movies for the price tag of an adequate, movie that probably isn't going to turn out what most fans want anyway. So, but there you have it. That's basically the reason why you didn't get a BioShock movie. So, and we're going to get on to some other gaming news before we get on to reviews and stuff. So, what else is happening in the gaming world?
Okay, so Star Trek Bridge Crew, from the VR game coming from Red Storm Entertainment, will thankfully use the bridge from the original Star Trek TOS because, frankly, I don't know about you, but I was not considering with taking the USS Mac or USS Apple Store where no man has gone before. So they're using the TOS bridge for Bridge Crew. I might actually be kind of excited to play a VR game now. So, although I still don't want to give CBS and Paramount any money, they can kiss my ass. But, hey, this actually looks kind of cool since it's going to be the TOS bridge. So the original Enterprise, as Scotty once said, no bloody A, B, C, or D. Anyway, let's see. Kingdom Hearts 1.5 and 2.5 will remix limited edition. Will be heading to PS4. Pre-orders are available. It's $49.96. So if you want to get a remastered HD version of Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 for your PS4, and you want to have something hold you over until Kingdom Hearts 3 finally comes out, whenever the hell that's going to be, then yeah, you can do that. It's coming out soon. Let's see, what else? That's not what I was looking for. So there's a new update, 2.5.0.2, hotfix coming for Destiny, or it should have actually released on the 14th, fixed a bunch of bugs. So if you've been playing Destiny and you noticed a smoother gameplay the last few days, that's probably why. Let's see. And
no,
the next sign that the whole...
That's not the same update. I mean, that was just for the game. That's not for the PS4, right?
No, it's just a hot fix for the... Yeah, it's not for the PS4. It's just for Destiny.
Oh, okay.
So The no new Skylanders game coming in 2017. Further proof that the buy toys plus a video game thing is dying. Thank God. Because Disney canceled Infinity after even Star Wars and Marvel couldn't save it. So, Skylanders got no new game. I don't know if they're doing much with the Amiibos for Nintendo, especially now that they're going to Switch. I don't know if they're going to be incorporated into Switch at all. So, there's that. Let's see. There's also some pretty good gaming deals going on right now. If you've like PC games and you like Total War and you like Warhammer and you want to go nuts with some green skins, go to my Twitter feed at NerdShowSmitty. You can get Total War Warhammer for like $12.99. There's a bunch of other good games on there too. And let's see what's coming out in the next few weeks. I know we got Horizon Zero Dawn comes out next week. Let's see, Legend of Zelda: The Breath of the Wild comes out March 3rd, along with Nintendo Switch, which that Zelda game might be the only reason to buy Nintendo Switch as far as I can see right now. Halo Wars 2, because, Switch came out and they're like, look, we've got a brand new system again. Oh, good. What do you got for it? Zelda and Mario. And we've had third-party support finally. Oh, good. What do you have? Elder Scrolls Skyrim. Wait, a game that launched 5 years ago? That's your big third-party support? A 5-year-old game that people have already modded to shit on the PC, so it's a better game that they're not going to play on Switch because they already have it on PC? Really? That's the best that you can do, Nintendo? Okay. Anyway, so we got Prey coming out May 5th. Mass Effect Andromeda, you beautiful thing, March 21st. The Kingdom Hearts 1 and the remix that I mentioned is March 28th. Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon March 7th. Nier Automata March. And MLB The Show, which, oh my God, I might actually buy a baseball game for the first time in a decade because that looks beautiful. And that's coming out March 28th. On Xbox One, if there's any exclusives real quick for Xbox One, if my computer would work with me.
Well, the only one that is the Halo Wars 2. They released
February. It's tomorrow.
Which is tomorrow, but they did the deluxe edition on Friday.
Although there is a very cool RPG that was a Kickstarter for PC, Torment: Tides of Numenera. That was by In Exile Entertainment. It was a spiritual sequel to Torment Planescape. That is being ported to the Xbox One. That comes out February 28th. So that's very cool.
Yeah. Really the biggest game that has come out in the past week has been For Honor, and we'll just to give you some brief insights on that. We're not doing a full review this week. We're still kind of playing through some different modes on it. And unfortunately, there wasn't anything like released early to really give a full review of this game. But anyway, it's awesome. I can definitely tell you that it is worth the money to buy, and there's still a lot more to discover. Not going to give you a final grade on it, but we always rate games based on are they worth the $60 to buy, and this one definitely is. So we'll talk more about it, next week and stuff. And we don't really have any first impressions or anything of Nintendo Switch. It's just one of those things that we're not that excited about it. Nintendo, I understand, needs to do something different, but
I'm just wondering if it's trying to do too many things. It just seems like it's going to be jack of all trades and master of none. Is it a portable system? Is it a tablet? Is it a console? What is it? It's all of it. Okay, yeah, but you know what? Generally, when you try to do more than one thing, it just doesn't go well. So we'll see. I have hopes because they are doing third-party support, but we'll see. Time will tell.
And I think, in the last 20 years since PlayStation, first got released and everybody played catch up with that, but really in the last 30 years, our consoles are, the basic concept is you have a box, a computer that you load a game up, you have a joystick, a controller to use. That's how you do it. And then you have add-ons like a steering wheel if you're playing racing games and you want to go all out. I mean, the Wii was exciting and kind of cool, but that was just a kind of a neat, trendy thing that, oh, okay, great, wow. But I don't really want to sit there and actually swing and do all that to try to play baseball or have the full range of motion to be able to do anything. Some of it, you just want to sit down with your controller and play your video game. So, but I agree with you. It just, I don't know really what to make of Switch, and it is probably one of those things where, you know, you do have to kind of try and figure it out. And I think we eventually will. But at that nerd show, when it comes to covering video games, we pretty much cover, you know, PC, PlayStation, PS4, and Xbox One. You know, the big three, and we leave it at that. That's the way it's always been, and as long as that's where the market is in video games, that's what we're going to be doing, because that's where most of the games are, you know, going to. Now, in regards to one other final thing, it was announced last year, but there was still some debate on whether it would be true or not. So we do want to officially, kind of reconfirm and give you the final word on this in regards to MLB, the show. For years, they have still put it out on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Their last year was the official last year of doing that. From now on, it will be on the newer console systems. So if you still play MLB and still have a PS3, you won't be able to get the new game anymore. So, and that kind of held on for a while. To be quite honest, I thought they would have quit doing that a couple of years ago. So, I think the only two games that still, well, you know what? Most of the sports games still do. I mean, you can still get Madden and FIFA and NBA 2K out on PS3 and Xbox 360. But I think that's coming to a quick end as well. And that's what happens. So, all right, moving right along to, yeah. And you can still find some good deals. I mean, the refurbished stuff, you know, under warranty at GameStop or Xbox is still fairly cheap. I mean, you can get a PS4 with a couple of controllers if you find a deal for, you know, about $250. So, all right. Getting to some reviews and things that have happened. The Great Wall movie with starring Matt Damon, or as I like to call it, Don't Waste Your Time movie with Matt Damon. That movie was made specifically for the Asian market, and before everybody goes apeshit that I'm being racist, no. It was made specifically for that market that doesn't really care much for the story, but loves a lot of CGI and big monsters and action scenes, and, you know, people, Michael Bay's audience. And that's really all that movie is.
Yeah.
Kind of an interesting concept of monsters and, you know, the story of why they really built the Great Wall. But there's nothing to write home about that movie. It's not worth going to see in the theater. There's nothing exciting about, you know, when it comes to 3D. You know, I watched it and was completely bored. And in fact, I wanted to shut it off and just go back and watch 47 Ronin with Keanu Reeves. That, even though it was a bomb, was a really good movie. You know. So,
and let's be honest. You know, I mean, the movie studios, half of them are all owned by China. So when you say something's made for the Asian market, yeah, it is. So.
Yeah.
You still there,
I mean,
Marcus?
that's, man, you're right. Well, and if a movie, you know, flops here, it can usually do pretty good over there. So,
yeah.
I'm sure they'll be able to. recoup whatever expenses they, you know, spent on it. Anyway, If I give it a final grade, I won't go as far as to say that it's so horrible that it's like a 3 or a 4. I mean, I gave it a 5 because the action scenes are really kind of cool, and they at least do explain why Matt Damon is not Chinese, you know. But Willem Dafoe's character has literally no purpose in that movie.
I didn't even know he was in it.
Yeah, some like mysterious priest dude being held prisoner. I don't know.
Well, it's got a 35 on the tomato meter on Rotten Tomatoes, and its audience score is a 55. Liked it, so you're right in the ballpark between both of them.
Well, it got 35% on Rotten Tomatoes. Well, all right. And again, not to be racist, but that's got to be the Asian market. So,
well, you guys remember that's also an average because it's got 53 fresh but 98 rotten.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So, hey, Matt Damon got a paycheck, and that's what's important. You know, every actor does really horrible movies. Remember, Michael Caine was in Jaws 4. Oh, did you guys not realize there was a 4th Jaws movie?
Don't remind him.
Yeah. No, he flat out admitted, I did the movie for a paycheck. I bought a house with the paycheck. I'm like, okay. Being honest. Now, a good movie that that's coming out this week, and we can actually discuss it. The embargo has been lifted. Was the 3rd Wolverine movie, and called Logan, simply called Logan. And this basically is taking up the storyline of Old Man Logan and stuff. And I got to tell you, absolutely the best out of the Wolverine movies. Of course, the first one, you know, the bar's not set real high to begin with. But at the same time, it was fantastic. Not perfect, but definitely a 9 out of 10 in my book. The full review would be up this week. Anyway, I can't describe. I mean, I'm having a hard time even describing just how really good it was, and it's a dark movie too. I mean, it's actually rated R. But it's a very fitting end.
Professor X cusses in it. I mean,
yeah. It's a very fitting end to the Wolverine character, and no, I'm not trying to give you spoilers or anything. But it's a fitting end to Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine. Anyway, it's just very, very good. Again, very dark, but definitely worth spending the money to go see in the theaters. In the dynamic between him and Charles Xavier is absolutely hilarious. The little girl who's basically Wolverine, the younger version of Wolverine, she's hilarious and kind of reminded me of that movie Hannah. With the young girl just killing everybody. But it's phenomenal, and I can't, without really giving away spoilers, which I don't want to do. I think people should read our full review on it this way. My impressions of this movie is, in a lot of ways, I think it probably will be the best comic book movie of the year. And I know Guardians of the Galaxy is coming out, and we've got the Wonder Woman movie and Justice League. But I think if you're looking at like a dark story and just kind of wrapping things up with a beloved character, then I think this one will probably surpass all of those storylines. So,
which is kind of amazing that for the past 2 years, Fox will have put out the best 2 comic book movies.
Yeah.
That's kind of amazing to think about with how many problems they've had with X-Men and Fantastic Four and Spidey. That's pretty amazing to think about.
Well, X-Men Apocalypse was not a bad movie. It wasn't a great movie, but it was good. But
Well, I
Days
just
of
meant with
Future
like
Past.
2 and 3, and you know.
You meant what?
So.
I'm
No, I
sorry,
meant with
you meant-
X-Men 2 and 3.
Oh. Oh, okay. You're
because
basically
Days of
referring to
Future
their
Past. Yeah. Days of Future Past was good, and Apocalypse was okay. I was referring more towards the older X-Men movies and how they kind of had Brandon's problems with those, and they ran it. Obviously, Fantastic Four, they've screwed up twice, and then Spidey, they did horrible things to Spidey. So it's nice to see them pull their head out of their ass and make 2 really good movies here in back-to-back years.
Right. Especially since the Fantastic Four movie a couple of years ago was just absolutely horrible.
It's the worst comic movie ever made, and maybe worse than the Fantastic Four movie from the 1980s or whatever that was.
The Roger Corman version from '94 that never really got released, but you can still go and find it somewhere. Yeah. Actually, I'd rather watch that version because at least you know what you're getting with it. So, anyway, Logan, must see. This is your must see movie of the week. But we want to get to some TV shows. We wanted to. Now, here's the thing about when we review a 24 series. Because if you do 24 right and you get 24 episodes and it's going to be done in real time, it's hard to judge the series based off the first hour. You really have to kind of get into 3 or 4 of the episodes before you can evaluate whether it's going to be good or not. And granted, it's never going to be quite as good because it's not Jack Bauer, and we have come to love Jack Bauer over the past 16 years. This 24, I think, is actually going to be really good. So far, it's entertaining. It's keeping it keeps you interested, about what's going on, what's really happening, who the real bad guy is, and then they do their job and drop a few hints, here and there. It's nice to have Jimmy Smits as in a role where he's pretty much like the David Palmer of this show, running for president and very likable and stuff. But the new young guy, again, granted he'll never be Jack Bauer, but with what they're doing so far with the story and everything, I think it's a very worthy kind of spin-off of 24. Maybe even better than 24 Live Another Day, which, granted wasn't the greatest, but it was nice to have Jack Bauer back, kind of thing. So far right now, I can actually rate this as a good 8 out of 10. Not perfect, but entertaining enough that I'm going to keep watching it. That kind of thing. And I don't know if you've had a chance to watch any of the episodes yet.
No, I was actually waiting for about 6 episodes in so I could kind of Netflix 6 in a row.
Binge watch it, and and that's the thing about 24.
I do it at like quarter seasons with 24 because it's too stressful to have to wait. Like, oh my God, I got to wait another week to find out what happens because every single episode's a cliffhanger. Too much to my blood pressure. So about season 3, I switched it up. I said, all right, once streaming stuff started happening more and more, I said, all right, I guess it was a little later. It might have been season 5 or 6. But I said, all right, I'm just going to wait until there's about 6 episodes online, binge watch all 6 on a Saturday morning, and then, I'll wait 6 more weeks and watch the second half of the first half of the season. And then, so basically I watch it in quarters. So.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of the best way to do it. I mean, it's hard to do. It's a nifty idea to do 24 real-time, episodes, but to spread that out over a season, and in the way that they're doing this, I'm very glad they're going to continue to do it, and there's not going to be any break. They're going to actually, end, like at the end of the summer or whatever. Because that was really the toughest part about doing 24, when it was first on is, we're going to have kind of when the first few years they had like a winter break. And it's like, no. And then they started to realize, no, we should just start doing this after the Super Bowl so we can continue going with no break from week to week. Thank you. So, but so far so good. The last thing that we did want to review real quick and mention, and you can go and read Alison Costa's full review on our website, was the Legion series that came up on FX, and they are 2 episodes in. It's very hard to decide whether it's going to be really, really good, but so far it's promising. Dan Stevens from Downton Abbey is pretty good in it. But, it's Legion, so, I mean, it's kind of, like the B Squad of, X-Men. So you're getting to those kind of storylines and stuff. But it's entertaining enough to keep you watching. And that's exactly, what I think, people do or should do. Give it some time. Let them, kind of get into, what the story, their storyline is. Probably the best parts really are 2 things. It's the side characters. Jean Smart playing this, you don't really know who she fully is yet or what her, full plan is, but she's, diabolical. Yeah, remember, that's the Southern lady from, Designing Women. Yeah. Just, a show that our audience used to watch. Anyway.
Yeah.
I should probably come up with something different for our audience as a reference of what she's been in. But anyway, the other thing is Aubrey Plaza from Parks and Recreation. She is just crazy as a loon. Looks like she's about ready to stab you all the time. And that's kind of an interesting departure for her, being that deadpan, comedian. So I do encourage people to continue watch the show. It's going to be interesting. So one show that I do want to mention that we haven't had a chance to mention on our podcast because it started in when we had some time off was this show on FX called Taboo with Tom Hardy. And we're not really going to give you a full review because we've only got 2 episodes left, and I'm still not even completely clear what's going on, except that everybody's trying to kill Tom Hardy. But it is very, very weird, very good, and just makes you want to keep watching. So that's the other series that we wanted to mention for our audience out there, and we'll have a few more. For everything. So we got 2 things before we get to the second half of the show. First, we wanted to do this week's Sign of the Apocalypse. And I thought this was actually very fitting to have during the week that we were going to be discussing our favorite fictional presidents. When a reputable newspaper, which I know, don't laugh, audience, in this day and age, when a reputable newspaper starts to sound like the Lone Gunman newspaper, then it's time to quit. You are no longer reputable. Nobody should ever take you seriously. And that's what happened a little over a week ago with the New York Daily Post. And this is why. And I'm not kidding when I make the reference to the Lone Gunman newspaper, because only that newspaper could literally make this story up. Okay? And make it sound sane. But there wasn't now granted, this was an opinion column that was written, but it was by one of their columnists, Michael something or other, and I can't remember his last name, and we won't completely bash him for sounding like Alex Jones in InfoWars. But we will make fun of the blog. He basically stated, in a very serious tone, not in a National Lampoon's sarcastic tone, that that Barack Obama had a shadow government going on, and they were meeting secretly in a bunker in Washington, D.C., that he didn't quite go into retirement, and that he had his own little private army or his volunteers from this progressive nonprofit that raises money for progressive and Democratic candidates called Organize for Change, and that they were single-handedly trying to overthrow the government and disrupt Trump and yada, yada, yada. But yes, shadow government. And the way that he literally went on to describe this was literally describing the shadow council that bargained with the aliens in the X-Files series. And I had to read this twice, Brendan, because at first I literally thought this was just something like from The Onion or whatever. They were reposting something from The Onion just to have some fun with it. But no. This was an actual serious political column from the New York Daily Post, which, does have a fairly good reputation. It's not the New York Times, but, it's not Fox News either. Okay? And the evidence that he had was literally referring to secret code that you could read, like it's the Da Vinci Code, within Twitter messages. And that the pictures of Barack Obama on vacation were fake, and that's what the shadow government wants you to think, because Barack Obama would never get on a jet ski, being from Hawaii and all. But yes, a reputable newspaper sounded like the Lone Gunman newspaper. And I'm sorry, folks, but one thing is fiction.
And it's coming.
Yeah.
And it's coming from, and the stupidity's coming from all sides. We're just berated by stupidity. It's being thrown at us. I mean, we're a nerd show. We're not a political show. But you've got stuff like that coming from the right, and then you got people on the left tweeting out, impeach Trump, impeach Pence, and then we get to have a special election. Folks, I implore you, look up what the Presidential Line of Succession Act is, because that's not how that works. That's not how any of this works. If you
right.
Okay, great, you impeach Trump, you impeach Pence, fantastic. Your president is now Paul Ryan, you morons.
Right.
And after him, it would be Orrin Hatch. After him, it would be the guy that just left Enron. After him, it would be the Secretary of the Treasury. After him, it would be James Mattis. So go to 5 and then stop, because then I get President Mattis, and y'all can kiss my ass.
Now, we don't do politics on this show, okay? We lampoon a lot of things. I mean, when we do an election, it's, we talk about an election, it's, who would rule the galaxy, shit like that, And we did want to talk about our favorite fictional presidents on President's Day, okay? Because it is important, to discuss the things that we kind of like and what makes it good. Because unfortunately, when it comes to presidents, sometimes, well, pretty much all the time, it seems like that the best presidents are the fictional presidents. And it's like, why can't we really get something like that? Because most of society are morons.
At this point, when Avengers Infinity War gets here, I, for one, will welcome our Overlord Thanos.
Exactly. But seriously, other news, outlets and everything. I understand the rants on Facebook and Twitter. I understand sites like FARC, which makes fun of, real news and everything. But honest to God, I don't necessarily blame the columnist for writing this. I mean, he's obviously a moron. But as the editor and producer of that nerd show that has to oversee all the content that goes on and make sure, I blame the editor for, fuck it, let's just do it. Really?
Well, that is a direct result of the 24-hour news cycle. Thank you, cable news, because it doesn't matter about facts anymore in journalism, and this is apolitical. It doesn't matter about facts in journalism. It matters about being first, because if it's wrong, you can always print a retraction later.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if your facts are straight. Just that you're first and you say something really crazy so you can get clicks on your website and views on your YouTube channel and ratings on your television program. That's all that matters. They don't care about reporting the news.
I will say this about that nerd show. We're not giving you real news. I mean, we're entertainment, okay? We comment on it. We lampoon stuff, okay? But we're also not going to be doing the rumor mill and stuff like that. When we give you news, it's actually confirmed, okay? So we don't have to do a retraction and all that, okay? But, there is the difference between satire and real news and opinions. And I get opinion columns. I mean, we have opinions on movies, and believe me, we call it like we see it. Some of the marketing companies that we work with, we are going to flat out say whether the movie is bad or not, okay? And we've been doing that for 5 years, okay? But we're not pretending to be serious on issues, And that's what made this really just hilarious but horrifying all in the same way. I love the X-Files. I mean, we both love the X-Files. The Lone Gunmen were great. I think there should be people like that in the world, okay? But it really, what reminded, when I first read the blog, I immediately reverted back to that 2-part episode, in season 6, where Michael Keenan's character from Area 51 and Mulder switch bodies. And there's that scene where he goes to the Lone Gunmen and starts laughing at their paper, like, what are you laughing at? Oh, if you only knew how much of this stuff we made up. And he starts looking at Saddam Hussein. Do you think he's real? No, that's a guy we found in Oklahoma doing dinner theater. Anytime we need him, we need a distraction, we get him to rattle a sword. And I thought, oh my God, that's the hilarious. I mean, that's what. Yeah, I'm at a lot of words. Yeah. So seriously, wow. Let's keep the Lone Gunman in the X-Files world where it belongs, where it's entertainment and we can enjoy it for what it is. But if you're going to keep up with this stuff, then I think the actors who played the Lone Gunman, who probably haven't really done a whole lot since the X-Files, I think at this point just make them journalists, because that's really what you're doing by writing stupid shit.
I got the better
like
idea. I've got the perfect idea for them. They need to watch news clips and lampoon the Mystery Science Theater 3000 style.
Oh my God!
This could be like
really.
This would be the best. That would be the best YouTube channel ever.
Okay, all right, everybody, an exclusive on That Nerd Show's podcast, and we're going to start promoting this tomorrow on social media. We are promoting, and I apologize, I don't have IMDb pulled up and everything, but we are promoting that you get the actors from the X-Files as the Lone Gunmen, and yes, they need to do a show lampooning the real news as the Lone Gunmen. That would be awesome.
This would be fantastic.
Oh my God.
That's gold.
What nerd? Yeah, what nerd wouldn't watch that? And have a surprise appearance by Gillian Anderson and Mulder. I mean,
yeah.
God, that's just awesome. Yeah. All right, we're promoting that.
It's Bruce Harwood, Tom Braidwood, and Dean Haglund are the 3 actors.
Okay. All right. So I know you guys probably aren't listening to our podcast, but expect stuff on Twitter and emails and all that. We are promoting the show on That Nerd Show. We think you should do this.
Absolutely. That'd be phenomenal.
Wow. By the way, guest appearance by William B. Davis as the smoking man, just in the back corner smoking. No, I think you guys have got it wrong. If you only knew the truth. And by the way,
why don't you chime in there, Chatty Cathy, or shut up?
Oh, wow. Okay. With that said, we are going to move into the second half of our show, which we're running a little over, and I do want to encourage our audience out there again. Our number is 646-564-9558. If you would like to throw your 2 cents in on who the best fictional president is, we definitely want to hear from you. As for our editorial segment and our beer of the week, we will get that in the last 5 minutes of the show. So, without further ado, fictional presidents. Now, let me go ahead and explain how this works, okay? We're going to take turns and throw out a fictional president, okay? But as we talk about fictional presidents, we're also, at the end of the hour, we're also going to talk about, out of all of these fictional presidents, who would we want personally to be our president? Which one would fit our ideals more as a president? Okay? Fiction. Okay? So, there you go. And if you'd like to wait till the very end and throw your 2 cents in on who you think would be your president, okay, then we'd love to hear it. But if you do call in and say, Francis Underwood from House of Cards, we're immediately blocking you, because as much as we love Kevin Spacey and that show is entertaining, it's not really a good president. It's about a corrupt president and all the things he did to become president. And unfortunately,
it's about an actual it's an actual politician rather than an idealized version of what a president should be.
Yeah, and it's just depressing because that's probably how it really is in Washington. It's like, and Kevin Spacey, we praise you for how great you are in that role, and Robin Wright, but no, you can't be our favorite president because it's just depressing. So anyway, and since we had a call in earlier, I'm going to start with Harrison Ford from Air Force One. Why not? Let's start with this guy. Now, there's a little bit of irony behind the fact of Harrison Ford being the president in Air Force One. Okay, and the irony is, if they had continued to do Jack Ryan movies with him, he would have been President Jack Ryan. Okay,
right,
and if you've listened to our podcast over the years, or us rant at the pub, or know us, you know that we're both huge Tom Clancy fans. We grew up with his books, okay?
Absolutely.
And Tom Clancy, has said multiple times in interviews, he wrote Jack Ryan as the version of himself that he liked or that he wanted to be, the hero that helped his country and stuff like that, okay? So it's Air Force One is kind of like the cheap knockoff of the Jack Ryan president, but at the same time, that movie is just so much fun. So if it's on cable, do you not just stop and watch that movie?
Yeah, I'll watch it. And when you say it's the poor man's Jack Ryan, it really is too, because not only did he play Jack Ryan, but that whole movie would be like the opening 4 chapters of a Tom Clancy novel. Like, that would just set up 86 different other plot lines that would go on for 1,000 pages. Like that entire 2.5-hour script would be like the first 4 chapters.
Right.
So, but it's great entertainment though. And of course, it's got one of the I forget the actor's name, but the guy who plays the Secret Service agent who betrays them. He plays an ass and everything.
Xander
Berkeley.
Bentley. Berkeley, from 24.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Xander Berkeley. So he played an ass in 24, although he did go out on an honorable note, flying a nuke into the desert. But it was. He's always an ass, but he's a good ass. He's the villain.
Right.
He's the antithesis of Jesse Eisenberg. When Jesse Eisenberg's on the screen playing a villain, I just want him to be off the screen because he's ruining my movie experience. When Xander Berkeley is playing a villain, granted in much smaller roles, I actually love him as a villain. He plays a good ass. He's you love to hate him. He makes the hero better, and that's what a good villain should do. So,
right.
I really like Air Force One. Yes, it's simple. Yes, it's straightforward. But it's a good summer popcorn flick, and that's what it was meant to be, and that's what it was. And, there's a little jingoistic patriotism there, too, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that in small doses. But,
Well, the greatness really, there's 2 great things about that movie. There's many things, but one thing is I love how they talk about that this president is a fighter. He's not going to go down without a fight because he's a soldier first. And as veterans, we want our presidents to have served in the military, okay? So, it's very hard to vote for someone who is going to be your commander-in-chief that's never served one day in uniform, okay? And this isn't a debate about baby boomer presidents dodging the draft and all that, because there were lots of people that did that, or Daddy got them into the National Guard where they didn't have to do anything because it's Vietnam era, okay? But it's a little bit different now because our wars have been, based off, our country being attacked. So we are of, like, our grandparents' generation, that your country is attacked, there's no question you join, or if you're in, you can, you serve. But this guy wasn't going down without a fight, okay? And at the same time, if we look at him as, a great fictional president, President James Marshall, would you not also pick Glenn Close, the fictional vice president? I mean, would you really want to toil with her? She was great in that movie too, and she doesn't get talked about as much. Okay?
No.
But it's
no,
also, it's also like the first time that they actually portrayed a woman vice president in that role. That was before they did that series Commander-in-Chief with Gina Davis that only lasted one season. So,
right.
But, you got William H. Macy, you just got a lot of great guys, people
Morgan
in there.
Freeman was in that?
Oh, yeah. Wait, no. Morgan Freeman wasn't in that. Are you thinking
almost
about
positive he
White
was.
House Down? I think you're thinking about White House Down.
No.
No.
I'm pretty sure.
Olympus Has
in Air
Fallen.
Force One, I'm pretty sure he played Secretary of State in that. Hold
No,
on.
he was Secretary of State.
Let's see.
I don't know. That's what
I guess he
is
wasn't.
for.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking.
I know
I
he
don't
played.
see him, so I'm mistaken.
I
I'm
think you're thinking he was the Speaker of the House in Olympus Has Fallen with Gerard Butler and Aaron Eckhart.
I'm merging. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
merging two presidents get taken up by terrorist movies together. Oh well, it happens. It's been a while since I've seen them.
Right. But yeah, again, just great movie. And great supporting cast.
And it is directed by a really good director too, Wolfgang Peterson. I mean, to this day, Das Boot is probably my favorite World War II submarine movie. So.
Oh yeah.
But
all right, so that's one of our favorite presidents. It's an obvious choice, but we definitely have to talk about it and stuff. And how about you? Pick another president fictional president that you really like.
All right, I'm gonna go with. We'll stay in the early 2000s, and I'm gonna go with President David Palmer from 24.
Yep.
So Dennis Haysbert was awesome in that role, and frankly, I don't even know if they ever mentioned his political party in the show, and I don't even think you could tell because he had some things he was liberal about, some things he was conservative about. But the only thing you got about President Palmer is that he made a decision, he stuck to his guns, and he was honorable. He wanted to do the right thing for the American people.
Yeah, they briefly talk about him being a Democrat in season 1, and I believe they mentioned it in season 3 when during the debates. But other than that, the political party doesn't. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it never plays any part of this of him being a president. It's not about his party. It's about for the American people. And I'll tell you this. I think season 2. Is really the best. I thought season 2 was better than season 1. And
they worked out some kinks in the.
Yeah, but it really, for him, it cemented his role in why he did what he does, and trusting intelligence officers to get the job done and stuff like that. Even though his cabinet was trying to undermine him, and especially with his chief of staff and stuff like that. You look at him as a generally good guy who despises his ex-wife because she's, a snake, but also realizes he's practical. He has to use her and stuff like that. But, David Palmer. So, and what's sad is you never really had any good president in 24 since, I guess Cherry Jones' character, the first woman from she was good, but other than that, everybody else was just like, who cares?
Yeah.
They never measured up.
And
to
Charles
David
Logan
Palmer.
was, oh God, Charles Logan was one of the biggest villains of them all.
I know, great actor. He's a great actor, but is there not a person that wasn't rooting? Jack, pull the trigger, just shoot the president. You got nothing to lose at this point. But, yeah, David Palmer definitely goes to the top of the list there. And Dennis Haysbert, too. Just a commanding presence, great actor and stuff. Now, here's a couple things that should be mentioned about, Dennis Haysbert. He has been around quite a while. So for older nerds, you do remember that he had a reoccurring role on Buck Rogers back in the late 70s. He played like the young lieutenant, and kind of cocky young lieutenant with a little bit of an afro and stuff. But yeah, he was on Buck Rogers. So his nerd credit with us was already there. But I think most people, remember him as Serrano from, the Major League movies. So
absolutely. Yeah.
Which, by the way, for you sports fans out there in Cleveland, Rick Vaughn and Serrano's jerseys are still the highest selling jerseys. Just saying.
That's so sad. That's so sad.
It is. But even though my Cubs, even though my Cubs beat Cleveland, I loved Cleveland in so many ways of this team this past year, and I love the fact that they actually had their memorabilia locker room for Major League, and they actually had Joe Boo, and people would leave gifts for Joe Boo in the locker room. So, very nerdy there. Anyway.
Oh, God, that's hilarious. Anyway.
I know.
All right, who's your next pick?
My next pick, and I never really talk about the show because it isn't a show that we cover, but this is the one time that I do get to talk about it. Martin Sheen is Jed Bartlett from The West Wing. Probably my all-time favorite. The West Wing was such a great drama about the inner workings of staff and politics, and the great thing about The West Wing is I know conservatives and liberals who both love this show because typical Aaron Sorkin, who writes this idea, who did the movie The American President, writes this show where it idealizes a president, everything a president should be, including all of his flaws. That even though it is of one party, it isn't always about, being, liberal versus conservative and learning how to work with the other people. Plus, the dialogue was witty and brilliant. And to me, if I was going to be president, I would want that staff and to have those people surrounding me. And Martin Sheen was just fantastic. Now, with that being said, as much as I love Martin Sheen and he's never done a bad movie in my mind, well, he was kind of awful in the Spawn movie, but, it's the Spawn movie.
So wasn't everybody else.
Yeah. There are we don't really discuss it so much and don't get into about, actors or actresses, being activists and getting involved in things that they don't really, aren't an authority on. I'm not saying I don't mind people, to be involved and help or be behind the scenes and stuff like that. Like, when the Haiti earthquake happened, Kelsey Grammer and Harrison Ford were both flying planes and taking relief stuff, but you didn't hear about it. They weren't on TV like Sean Penn, spouting nonsense. Okay. There have been comments and times that, he kind of took liberty as well. I play the president on TV and acted like an authority and said things. It's like, you're still an actor at the end of the day. Be an activist, protest, do stuff, get arrested. But you just play the president on TV. You're not really the president. However, with that being said, I did make a comment this past weekend that if you are going to have a reality TV star be president, then we might as well pick a fictional president that we like, and I would have rather have Martin Sheen acting like a president than what we have. But yeah, I mean, the West Wing, I watch it every election year. I binge watch it to make me feel good about politics because nothing else does. And, great performances all around by everybody. And I love the fact that they carried, it into the new election and, had Jimmy Smits on there for the last year and a half and leading to, him becoming president. And the greatness of that, and one of the reasons I do mention this is because it's so idealistic, when they did the last season with Jimmy Smits running as the Democratic president, they had Alan Alda, who is very liberal in real life, playing the moderate Republican. And you looked at both of the characters and what they talked about and how they converse with each other, and it's like I'd vote for both of these guys. I mean, I had liberal friends that were like, I'd vote for, that character if he was really running for president, because he wasn't like crazy conservative, but had a lot of conservative values and stuff like that. But both of them just had commanding presidents, and it still had when you idealize a president and what you want in a president, both of them had that. And of course, Jimmy Smits playing the former soldier and pilot, and just that commanding presence. But that's Jimmy Smits being a great actor too. So, like I said, Martin Sheen playing Jed Bartlett in The West Wing. It's really too bad. Also, by the way, it should be pointed out too that if you don't like Democrats and liberals and blah blah blah, he's actually considered much more of a moderate centrist in this day and age that could get along with everybody. The kind of person that you hope that you get as a president. And I thought that actually, I thought that was part of the brilliance of the show at the same time. So there you go. That's one of mine. How about you? What's another pick for a president?
Can I do a silly one?
Go ahead.
Is that allowed? Hail, Scoob.
Yeah.
Faithful. Come on. I give it up to Mel Brooks. President Scoob.
Well,
got beamed and found out what we all knew about every president, that his head was on backwards and he had an ass bigger than he thought.
You know what? If you're going to have a great satire of a president, why not? We're not just stopping at our favorite presidents that we really want. Sometimes the satire works. And with that said, I would pick Merkin Muffley from Dr. Strangelove and How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Peter Sellers as the president was great in that movie.
Oh God, Peter Sellers is great in everything. But yeah,
right.
It's just, so yeah, but I just had to throw Mel Brooks in because Mel Brooks, wherever I go, if I'm going on a trip and I bring some DVDs or whatever. Now it's more of just video files on the laptop, but I always have at least one Mel Brooks movie with me, and usually it's more, and usually the rotation is Men in Tights, Spaceballs, and Blazing Saddles. Sometimes History of the World sneaks in there, but it's just I mean, because when you're on a plane for 2.5 to 5.5 hours, you just want to laugh your ass off because chances are you're sitting next to some big smelly guy who ate way too much fast food and is now going to be farting next to you for the whole damn plane, right? And you really just want to laugh. So Mel Brooks is my go-to when I go anywhere. Yeah.
You know what? I don't disagree with you at all. Not at all. But getting to more different presidents and stuff like that. I mean, it's the satire is still really good. If you keep in the vein of satire, the Primary Colors movie, which was very much based off of Bill Clinton's first election.
John Travolta.
Travolta playing Jack Stanton and everything, putting on the weight, and Emma Thompson, playing the Hillary type character. I do love the movie in a lot of ways. Great cast. Billy Bob Thornton was absolutely hilarious. The perverted, Southern political consultant who was pretty much, based off James. I can't think of his last name now. Carville. But
James Carville?
Yes, thank you. There's a lot of satire within that movie at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely throw that up there. I mean, I know they try to have like it being inspiring and stuff like that, but just the comedy behind it was actually pretty good. So it's kind of on the cusp of satire. That's how I would look at that movie. So do you have another one?
Yeah, I can pick another one. Let's just throw it out there for one of the best speeches in a bad movie ever. President Thomas Whitmore from Independence Day.
Yep. Yep.
So I mean, and speaking of, and another fighter pilot president, by the way, which are basically all just kind of loose representations of President Bush the First. I'm sorry, am I not supposed to use the empirical terms there? We have so many political dynasties in this country. Anyway, but President George H.W. Bush, who actually won the Navy Cross and actually went to fight a war and was a fighter pilot for the Navy. But so he was kind of the original inspiration for all these characters later who are now presidents who used to be fighter pilots. So, but yeah, I have a bunch of friends in the Air Force that always get pissed off about this. They're like, it takes a college degree, and my cousin says this too all the time. He's a retired master sergeant. Says it takes a college degree to fly a plane and a high school diploma to fix one.
Yeah,
so
I
who
never
do you
really
want
understood.
leading the country? The hot shot who's going around, hey, I'm a pilot, or the guy who actually can fix the plane and put it in the air?
Well, I mean, speaking of pilots, I mean, isn't pretty much Chuck Yeager like the last, great pilot that didn't have a college degree? I mean, it just you don't see things like that anymore. So.
Well, at least for fixed wing aircraft, but rotary, you get there's all types of Army helicopter pilots that don't have degrees, or at least they don't when they first get their pilot's license. But.
Right. Because because it's not like the military can't train you and give you the education. So, yeah, that's definitely a good one. And we talk about like bad movies sometimes. I mean, they're not supposed to be, great drama or anything or inspiring. They're just action movies and they do their thing and stuff like that. But we always give a friend of ours at our local pub, he always gives me shit for saying that Pacific Rim was epic as a movie. And I still think it's epic because it's robots versus aliens and it's just a fun summer popcorn movie. But that's what Independence Day is, too. And the reason those two movies, they have one big thing in common. Basically, you're defeating aliens that are trying to take over your world, and they have two of the greatest speeches by the commander. Independence Day with the president, and then Pacific Rim, and who doesn't like Idris Elba? We're going to cancel the apocalypse. So that's all you really need with those kinds of movies. You don't need a great story. You just need to defeat the enemy in a great speech. That's what's important.
Yep, pretty much.
There you go. Okay, so I'm actually, speaking of Morgan Freeman, we are actually going to put Morgan Freeman on our list because he did play the president in Deep Impact. And I think people forget about the movie Deep Impact.
I'm sorry. It wasn't because it came out right around the time of Armageddon. But
yeah,
here's my thing
with
Deep Impact. Could you not have come up with a better title? I mean, come on. It sounds like a porn movie. Deep Impact. I'm sorry. Is that the one starring Ron Jeremy or the one starring Morgan Freeman? I get confused.
By the way, I would love to have a James Bond movie called Deep Impact, just so you could do a double feature: Octopussy, Deep Impact.
Yeah.
Anyway, Octopussy still gets rated as the best all-time James Bond title, with good reason. So,
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, we got to put Deep Impact as the lesser known of the apocalypse movies, and I think people forget the cast that was in that movie and stuff. A lot of great nerd actors. I mean, you had Elijah Wood in there and stuff. But, it's an inspiring movie. Armageddon, the only thing that was inspiring about that is you had a, Aerosmith song and a few great little one-liners, but it's a Michael Bay film. And actually the best character is the Russian, cosmonaut. So,
Russian pots, American pots, all made in Taiwan.
But Morgan Freeman, not only is he the perfect, fictional god, has the voice, but great president too. He has that presidential voice because, well, he's Morgan Freeman. So I throw him up there on that list as a great president and stuff. So now I want to ask this question. I don't think a lot of people really remember this show, but we mentioned it earlier. Gina Davis and Commander in Chief. It came out about 10 years ago. Did you watch any of it?
No, because I don't generally care for Gina Davis. Had they cast literally anybody else, I probably would have watched it. But I don't know. There's only one thing I've ever liked her in, and it was more about Samuel L. Jackson being in it than her, and that was The Long Kiss Goodnight, which is a terrible movie, by the way.
But
his
fun
lines
movie.
in it are freaking hilarious. Him and Brian Cox. We just jumped out of a window. Yes, it was very exciting. Tomorrow we'll go to the zoo.
Right. That movie is, if you really look at it, it is a terrible movie, but it's a fun, terrible movie. It's a great guilty pleasure.
Any movie that utters this line, it's, what's up with you? When I first met you, you were like, oh, phooey, I burned about brownies. Now you run into a bar, and 10 minutes later, sailors come running out. Yeah. Any movie that has that line in it knows that it's horrible, and it's not taking itself too seriously.
Right. Well, the reason I mentioned this series is I thought it was an interesting. I thought it was an interesting idea for a series, and maybe you're right about Gina Davis. Maybe she just didn't have enough to really, carry that show after it, got canceled for one season. But I also think it was like on ABC, and it was trying to capitalize on the success of The West Wing with NBC and stuff like that. But it's a woman who basically gets put as vice president, and then the president gets sick and dies, and she assumes the office, and the president on his deathbed asks her to resign because they want the Speaker of the House, played by Donald Sutherland, to take over, who has a lot more experience, and she's like, no, and I'm going to show that I know what I'm talking about. So it's about her struggles and being able to do everything, and interesting show for what it is, but again, it just didn't have enough to really keep going. But I think that she's a good honorable mention because she did a good enough job for what that movie is, or what that TV show is. But you're right. I think you could have put a lot of different female actresses into that role, and it might have been better. Glenn Close from Air Force One. So,
yeah.
Anyway, all right. I got another one, and I don't know if you remember this movie or not, but Jeff Bridges, who played President Jack Evans in the movie The Contender, where they're trying to nominate the first female vice president, and it's about another Gary Oldman movie. Okay. We throw him up there only for the simple fact of it's Jeff Bridges, great actor who can do a lot of different things. And the whole concept is he picks a woman to be president, played by Nancy Allen. And it's her confirmation hearings go ridiculously crazy. They basically are trying to, get rid of her and stuff. And it comes down to asking questions about her sexual history, because there was like rumors she did a gangbang in college, and she refuses to ask the question and basically takes the Senate hearings to task about what they're asking and about privacy and whatnot. And of course, Gary Oldman plays the head of the Senate committee, who's, like a conservative and stuff. But what the uniqueness of it of him is really where it is kind of Nancy Allen who's at the forefront and the main character. It's his undying loyalty to this, especially to all the people that are trying to take her down, and the whole theme about it for her, about why she won't answer the question is, or questions about her sexual history, is you don't have the right to ask those questions because that has nothing to do with me being the vice president. So it's another, it's a feel-good movie about the right to privacy, integrity, and all the dirty politics where people, that people have to try to, bring you down, that kind of shit. But it's a very underrated performance by Jeff Bridges, and it does largely get forgotten. But one of the best parts about the movie is Sam Elliott, who basically still looks like the same Sergeant Major from, We Were Soldiers, as the Chief of Staff, and curses and, is not PC at all, but a very, lovable character in there. So, but we do have to mention that Jeff Bridges did play the president, at one time. So, any more presidents, fictional presidents that you like? Satire, for real?
Actually. So I got two. One is a fictional president. One is just an actor portraying an actual president. And the fictional president is Dave, Kevin Kline.
I was going to mention that later, but let's get to it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a great movie. And hey, our buddy Ving Rhames that we were talking about earlier, he's in there. Sigourney Weaver,
the Secret Service agent. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's it's just I mean, the president goes down with a stroke, and they hire a lookalike to be the president, and all of a sudden he figures out he can run the country better than they can. So it's like, which honestly, haven't we all had that thought at one time or another? I think I could do this job better than these idiots, or at least I could do it, more honorably. So, it's kind of a little bit not only of escapism, but just kind of being that living vicariously through a character, being like, yeah, I could do that. And he's Kevin Kline. If you're watching a Kevin Kline movie and you're having a bad time, there's probably something wrong with you, because he's got this infectiousness about him. He just makes people around him happy. I don't know what it is, but it's kind of hard to watch him and be like, and scowl. Like, if you're watching him and you have a frown upon your face, I'm like, okay, who's shitting your cornflakes? So, but yeah.
Well, we'll get back to it in a minute, but we're going to take a call real quick. So.
Sure.
Hey there, you're on That Nerd Show. So, do you have a favorite fictional president?
I sure do. I wasn't sure if y'all had already brought him up because I came on late. Did y'all already mention Harrison Ford as James Marshall?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
we actually had a call at the beginning before we got to the segment, but but we love talking about him to begin with in so many ways. But let's get your answer on this question. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it may not be the greatest movie of all time, Air Force One, but it's a fun movie, and if it's on cable, you will stop what you're doing. Yeah. And who doesn't want somebody like Harrison Ford and that character to be our president? I mean, it seems like conservatives
and Gary
and
Oldman
liberals
is the best bad guy.
Right.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Sorry to cut you off there.
No, that's fine. Besides, he's the type of president. He's like the Teddy Roosevelt president that would just punch out, a foreign leader for disagreeing with him.
I'm glad you bring that up because there was one thing I wanted to mention. You hesitated bringing up the political side of West Wing, earlier. But what is so awesome about Air Force One, especially now that Trump is president, is during his campaign, and I'll have to find this on YouTube and see if I can jolt his mind about this. He said that was his favorite president too. He'd like to see a president like that, and I want to say, okay, you said that. Well, you do it now that you're in that seat. I know this isn't a political show, but I just that made the movie so much cooler.
Look, I have come to terms with the fact that there are things that that have happened since last year. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm a diehard Cubs fan, so when they won the World Series, they broke the space-time continuum. So they win the World Series,
right.
Trump gets elected president, and then I found out that I voted the exact same way as George W. Bush, which I've never voted Republican in my life. And I'm like, I'm sorry, excuse me? We both voted, none of the above? What the hell is going on here? So now that I just throw that one onto the list of, wait, I'm sorry, Trump and I both agree on a fictional president? Damn it.
Seriously,
this is not working.
Yeah, it's kind of unnerving.
Yeah, but I like what you said, though. I mean, it's if you're going to say that's your favorite fictional president, well, once you start acting like that.
Now you're the president. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You can pretty much do what you want. Yeah.
There was him and then Bill Pullman in Independence Day, the first one. I like that
we brought that
character
up as well.
he played there. Okay, good, good. So I really did come out late. Wow.
Well, we
right.
started about an hour ago. We've gone through a lot, the big list, like David Palmer from 24, and I did.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And we mentioned all of our West Wing, characters and all that. But I think there is really a common theme with all of these presidents, especially in the writings of these stories. The party is not what's important. It is the American people and fighting for a just cause, no matter how you disagree about going about it and all that. And that's what makes them great presidents. So
I agree.
Now I'll throw one other thing out there with you before we let you go, but there is I forgot to mention this earlier with talking about Harrison Ford and being Jack Ryan, who does become president. Amazon greenlit a show with John Krasinski from The Office to play a younger Jack Ryan as an analyst / super spy, because apparently that's what we do with Jack Ryan now. He's a super spy.
Yeah.
I'm like, could we just forget that shit and actually, how much would it take to get Harrison Ford to play President Jack Ryan and then have someone be his son who's like a Special Forces soldier? I want that
okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm cool with that.
Just
make sure that Harrison Ford is not allowed to fly to set. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because let's have Jack Ryan, the guy with a back so bad from a helicopter plane crash when he was in the Marines that he can barely stand up. Yeah, let's have him be the guy being the super spy.
So did they forget about Chris Pine? Is Chris Pine no longer play Ryan anymore?
Oh, I hope not.
Yeah. No. I think that was a one and done thing. I'm like, you got your paycheck in your really bad movie. Go
back to being Kirk.
Right. I mean, we'll take more of those movies any day before you do Jack Ryan again. So, but yeah, that's but I great mentioning that about the West Wing and Trump and saying that about James Marshall. But I think that's a lot to live up to and stuff. And Air Force One is just a great movie. Yeah. Well, thanks for the recommendation.
It's hard to beat Wolfgang.
Absolutely. Thanks for calling in.
You bet. You got it.
But anyway, we're kind of running out of time here. But getting back to Dave, that movie was great on so many levels. I think really the best part is when he brings in his accountant friend, Charles Grodin's character, and they figure out how to get $500 million. And I love the whole, when you're looking at like the Secretary of Transportation, okay, we're spending $24 million for a feel-good campaign or to make people feel good about the car they already bought. They've already bought the car, and now we want to make them feel good about it. $24 million?
It's like,
yeah.
I love Charles Grodin's line. He goes, this is ridiculous. If I ran my business like this, I'd be out of business.
I know, right? But he's got the legal pad, and he's like subtracting. All right, I think we're
yeah.
But yeah, that's great movie. Very fun movie. It's one of Sigourney Weaver's better ones too. Great line when they sneak out and they say they're impersonators. Cop looks like, you do great. She needs some work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's just, it's like okay, thank you.
But I think it should be. I think we should point out too that if we're talking about presidents and Secret Service agents, with Ving Rhames being a Secret Service agent, we loved him as a Secret Service agent in that movie. But let's face it, we all know who the best all-time Secret Service agent is. Agent Pierce from 24.
Well, Aaron Pierce. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
he survived the whole. He was like one of the only tertiary characters to survive the whole show. By the way, Glenn Morshower, a good friend of ours.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so.
I still hate seeing him play a villain.
He was in Air Force One as well.
Yeah,
he played a Secret Service agent in that too.
That's right, he did. Yeah, he's one of those guys that it's like Samuel L. Jackson. That guy's in everything.
Yeah.
It really does just pop up all over the place. I still hate seeing him play a villain. I just really can't buy that. But Secret Service agent, general, perfect father,
yeah.
Absolutely. Bring it on. But yeah, just think about if you were that would be a great series. Fictional President, your two main Secret Service agents, Agent Pierce, and then, Ving Rhames is a Secret Service agent from Dave. That'd be awesome. All right. Couple of honorable mentions that we just wanted to, just some movies that you should check out. Henry Fonda played the president in the Failsafe movie from 1964, and that was about dropping the bombs in the failsafe maneuvers of of that time. But that was a very underrated performance as the president, especially in the nuclear era where, there is that point where there's no turning back, and you do question everything because what that decision is going to be, what that entails. So very, very, very good movie. They did a made-for-TV movie with George Clooney producing, which wasn't really bad, and I think Richard Dreyfuss played the president. But I don't think it ever beats the original movie, especially with a serious role by Walter Matthau.
Yeah.
Another great little underrated movie, classic movie that I think people should check out. James Earl Jones played the president, President Douglas Dillman, in the movie in 1972 72 movie called The Man. So, and just think about it. I mean, could you imagine James Earl Jones, that commanding the president's being being a good president?
That must have been pretty shocking in 1972.
Yeah.
Like, that must have been controversial, because let's face it, race relations, not so sweet in 1972. So.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of great things that he has done that I think we forget about.
Oh yeah.
Because as nerds, it's Darth Vader, and then Field of Dreams and all that. But
don't forget Conan.
Yeah. So I do think a good honorable mention is Aaron Eckhart playing the president in Olympus Has Fallen and London Has Fallen. Even though the movies weren't, spectacular, but he did a pretty good job in it. And I'll be quite honest, as much as I love Jamie Foxx, I could never buy Jamie Foxx as a president, type character. And White House Down was just a god-awful movie to begin with. So.
Well, when you start with the potatum,
All right. And if you want some satirical presidents, then you could go Jack Nicholson as President James Dale in Mars Attacks. You could also
Terry Crews
go
as
with
President Camacho in Idiocracy.
Yes. Well, that one has two. You got
that's true.
President Joe Bowers, not sure.
Yeah.
So we didn't really mention the show Scandal because it really doesn't matter. We don't cover it to begin with, and isn't what it is and stuff. But then again, and then there's President Selena Meyer, Julia Louis-Dreyfus from Veep, which was a very satirical show. So anyway, real quick, out of everybody that we've mentioned, who would be the president that you would want personally? Your fictional president. Who would you pick?
I'm gonna pick with my first choice. It's if I had to serve in the military again and had to serve under a fictional president, I would hope it would be President Palmer.
Yeah, I agree.
David Palmer is my favorite. So,
I still, for that reason, I would pick him too. But at the same time, because I love the West Wing so much, I really wish there was a Jed Bartlett type president out there that was moderate enough and worked with both sides. So that would be my personal pick. But I only know it's good in fiction. So, real quick, what is our beer of the week?
Okay, so our national beer of the week is going to be the Tree Shaker, the Tree Shaker Imperial IPA with peaches from Odell Brewing in Fort Collins, Colorado. Runs about 10% ABV. Has a nice sweetness from the peach flavor. Obviously, they're Steve Miller fans. Really want to love your peaches, want to shake your tree. So anyway, but it's fantastic Imperial IPA. Just enough sweetness to take the edge off of the bitterness of the hops. Really good seasonal Imperial. Go check that one out. Locally, I'm going to go with one that I did not like last year's version, but is much improved this year, and that's Lakewood Brewing here in Dallas. Their Raspberry Temptress. The Temptress, of course, is their flagship beer. It's their milk stout. Last year's Raspberry Temptress was terrible. It had it tasted like it was all extracty, and it was way too sweet, way too much raspberry. They've really dialed back the raspberry. I think they've used fresh raspberry this year, and it's a world of difference. It is a much, much better beer. It's worth trying because it's only going to be here for about 6 weeks, and then it's gone until next year. So, there you go.
Great. We didn't do our editorial segment at the first half of the show, so we kind of waited, and I will definitely keep this short. But it is in regards to gaming, and it goes into a lot of the complaints that we always have from gaming companies. We love RPG games. Ever since we've gotten our first console, and they've really developed. I mean, things like the Elder Scrolls and the Assassin's Creed games have always been entertaining. But if we have one complaint with all of the companies, and you've got to do better communication on this, you can't release RPG games a week within each other or from each other. You just can't. You have to give gamers time to play these games. So I'm going to make a suggestion. 3 weeks in between each other, okay? 2 at the most. Just give us time. I cannot be playing Neo and then have For Honor come out. It just most gamers do work. We do have lives. So it's enough is enough, gaming company publishers. Just there's 52 weeks in a year, okay? You can wait to release something from another time and really promote it and have enough time for people to digest and get involved in it and want to buy it. Because if you do it so close, if you do games too close together, then people are going to have to choose, and they may not choose your game. And that's all I have to say in regards to gaming companies and RPGs. We'll be back next week talking about the Oscars and talking about our Oscar picks that we have an assignment, that we'll be doing this week. We'll see if the Oscars got it right, or we'll be complaining about the Oscars like we normally do, because a lot of times they do absolutely get it wrong. But we want to tell everybody to stay nerdy. We want to thank some of our callers today, telling us who their favorite presidents were. And everybody, stay nerdy. We are out of here.
Drink more beers.
Say goodbye.
Bye, everybody.